The abandoned section of the hospital was eerily quiet. The group moved cautiously through the empty rooms, their footsteps muffled by the dusty floors. They stumbled upon a room with a strange set of medical equipment, a set of old operating tables and test tubes filled with strange liquids. On the wall there was a large set of diagrams showing human anatomy with disturbing annotations. "This is where it all started," Emma whispered, feeling the weight of the past pressing on her shoulders. "This is where they did the experiments," Kofi added, his voice tight. "We have to find proof, or this whole place will stay buried forever." Kwame quickly grabbed his camera, snapping photos of the medical charts, the equipment, and the disturbing images on the walls. Emma began searching through drawers and cabinets, finding evidence of illegal experiments, patient records, and photographs. "I think we've got enough," she said, her voice full of determination. "We need to get out of here before they notice we're gone," Kofi said, scanning the room nervously. They gathered what they could, evidence that would expose the horrors hidden within these walls, and made their way toward the exit. But as they reached the door, the sound of footsteps echoed once again. As they stepped back into the hallway, they found themselves face to face with Dr. Mensah and a group of security guards. "Did you think you could take down everything I've worked for?" Dr. Mensah sneered, his voice filled with cold contempt. Emma stood her ground. "It's over, Mensah. Your secrets are out." "You think I care?" Dr. Mensah replied, his eyes narrowing. "I've already won, but if you want to fight, I'll make sure you never leave this place alive." The air crackled with tension as the guards closed in. Emma, Kofi, and Kwame had no choice but to fight back. This was their last chance. The guards moved toward them with swift precision, their eyes cold and determined. Kofi and Kwame positioned themselves on either side of Emma, ready to defend their ground. The tension was palpable. "We don't want to fight you," Emma said, her voice steady but tinged with urgency. "We just want to expose the truth." Dr. Mensah laughed. "Truth? The truth is that you've already lost." With a signal from Mensah, the guards lunged forward. The fight erupted instantly. Emma ducked and dodged, narrowly avoiding the first attack. Kofi swung a metal rod at a guard's head, knocking him to the ground. Kwame used his camera strap to whip another guard back, creating space for them to escape. The struggle continued, but Emma and her team fought fiercely, managing to incapacitate 2 of the guards. They turned to make their escape, but Dr. Mensah's voice rang out from behind them. "You'll never leave here alive." Kofi led the way as they sprinted down the hallway, looking for an exit. They turned a corner and found a maintenance door slightly ajar. The sound of pursuit grew closer, but the door provided a sliver of hope. "Get in!" Kofi yelled. One by one, they dashed through the door, slamming it shut behind them. They were in a dark, narrow stairwell, their only option to descend deeper into the building. The stairwell led them into the heart of the hospital's forgotten underground level. The air was damp and stale, the walls cracked and stained from years of neglect. "This is it," Kofi whispered. "The hidden lab, the place where my grandfather worked." They entered a large, abandoned room filled with old equipment, some broken and rusted, but others still functional. At the far end of the room was a large, locked cabinet. Emma approached, scanning for a way to open it. "This could be the proof we need," she said. Emma managed to pry open the locked cabinet with a crowbar they found in the room. Inside were files, photographs, and a series of medical reports detailing the experiments that had been carried out on countless patients. One photograph caught Emma's eye. It was a picture of Lucas, looking pale and exhausted, shackled to an operating table. "Lucas," Emma whispered, her heart sinking. Kofi's voice was low, full of regret. "My grandfather knew. He let it happen." Emma felt the weight of the injustice in the room, but they had no time to dwell on it. They had what they needed to expose the truth. They had to leave. As they tried to leave the hidden lab, the unmistakable sound of footsteps echoed through the hallway. They were not alone anymore. Dr. Mensah and his remaining guards had found them. "You should have stayed away," Dr. Mensah's voice echoed down the corridor. The group readied themselves for the final confrontation. Emma and Kofi knew there was no turning back now. They either expose Mensah's horrors or die trying. With weapons in hand, they prepared for the fight of their lives. The standoff between Dr. Mensah and the group of rebels was taut with tension. Emma gripped the crowbar tightly, while Kofi and Kwame stood ready, weapons in hand. The air was thick with the scent of dust and decay from the old lab, and their breaths echoed in the silence. "You think you can end this?" Dr. Mensah sneered, his voice dripping with contempt. "The damage is done. I've already secured my position." Emma stepped forward, her voice steady but fierce. "You've killed too many innocent people, Mensah, and you'll kill no more." Without warning, one of the guards lunged forward, and the battle began. The silence shattered as one of the guards made the first move, charging at Kwame with a heavy baton. Kwame dodged, using his camera strap to trip the guard. Emma swung the crowbar at another guard, knocking him back as Kofi aimed a heavy blow with a metal rod, sending the guard sprawling. It was clear. They had the element of surprise, but Dr. Mensah wasn't going to be caught off guard. He lunged forward with a syringe, aiming for Emma's neck. Just as Dr. Mensah's syringe came close to Emma's neck, Kofi intervened, tackling Mensah to the floor. The syringe fell from his hand and slid across the floor. Kwame quickly seized the moment, knocking out 2 more guards. But Mensah wasn't down for long. He rose quickly, his eyes burning with fury. "This isn't over," Mensah spat, his voice low and venomous. "You've only delayed the inevitable." Kofi stood above Dr. Mensah, breathing heavily as he held the man down. "It's over, Mensah," he said, his voice fierce. "You're going to pay for everything you've done." Emma and Kwame moved quickly, grabbing the evidence they'd gathered, the photographs, the documents, and the recordings. They had to expose Mensah's crimes. "We can't stay here," Emma said, urgency in her tone. "The authorities will be coming soon, but we need to make sure the evidence gets to the right people." As the group prepared to leave the underground lab, the weight of their actions pressed heavily on them. They had fought hard, but the danger was not over. Dr. Mensah had been exposed, but his influence ran deep, and his reach was vast. Emma felt a deep sadness for the victims, including Lucas, whose life had been a casualty of Mensah's greed. She thought of Kofi's grandfather and the other lost souls. The truth had come at a cost, but it was a cost they had to pay. "We have to make sure this never happens again," Emma said, her voice unwavering. Kofi nodded. "We will. We'll bring this to the authorities. Together." They moved quickly, racing through the hospital halls with the evidence in tow. The sun was rising outside, but the hospital remained eerily silent. "We need to get out of here before reinforcements arrive," Emma urged. She led the group toward the back exit. Kofi and Kwame followed closely behind, their footsteps echoing in the empty corridors. Every moment counted. The back door creaked as they pushed it open, revealing the wide open expanse of the compound outside. For the first time in hours, Emma let out a sigh of relief. They had made it out. As they reached the hospital's back gate, a vehicle sped toward them. Kofi's heart raced. He had a sinking feeling in his stomach. "Ambush!" he shouted. They dove for cover just as Dr. Mensah's remaining guards emerged from the shadows, guns drawn. The chase was on, and there was no turning back. "Run!" Emma ordered, pulling Kofi and Kwame into the alley behind the hospital. They sprinted as fast as they could, but they knew they were being hunted. They reached a dead end, a high brick wall that seemed impossible to scale. "We can't stop now," Emma panted. Kofi looked around desperately, searching for any way out. Then he spotted a ladder leading up to the roof of a nearby building. "We'll climb up," Kofi said. The group made their way to the ladder, scrambling up to the roof just as the guards closed in. They were now trapped, but at least they had a moment's respite. On the roof, Emma, Kofi, and Kwame surveyed their surroundings. They had no way out except to confront their pursuers. Dr. Mensah's guards were closing in, and the trio had no choice but to make their final stand. "We fight together," Emma said, her voice low but resolute. Kofi nodded, clenching his fists. "We're not going down without a fight." Kwame checked the evidence one last time, ensuring it was safe. "I'm ready," he said. The sound of footsteps grew louder. It was now or never. The fight was swift but brutal. Emma, Kofi, and Kwame fought with everything they had, and the guards, outnumbered and outmatched, finally fell back. With their attackers defeated, they had won, but the battle wasn't over. They would have to face the authorities and ensure Dr. Mensah was brought to justice. As the sun began to rise fully, Emma looked out over the city from the rooftop. It was a new day, and while the scars of the past would remain, the truth was finally exposed. They had done it.